A lion's plea for help led to a situation no one could have predicted. The security camera was frozen on 9:42 a.m., the exact moment Mia Chen's world was irrevocably altered. It was meant to be an ordinary Tuesday morning at the Oasis Springs Resort, an exclusive haven positioned on the fringe of a controlled wildlife area in southern Florida. Mia had been a front desk employee for less than 3 months, a job she'd accepted to fund her last year of veterinary school. The resort's primary allure, its location next to a managed animal habitat, had thrilled her at first. Now, it was transforming into her ultimate dread. The lobby was peaceful that morning, with the majority of guests either still enjoying breakfast or resting after the previous night's welcome event. Mia was busy with the reservation system, her dark hair falling over her face as she focused on the monitor. She was dressed in the resort's mandatory attire, a pale blue crop top with a matching skirt, which management felt embodied the upscale yet relaxed atmosphere they aimed for. She had internally noted to request trousers instead, as the uniform felt awkward and a bit chilly. As the lobby sliding glass doors slid open with a soft whisper, Mia didn't immediately glance up. She figured it was Mr. Patterson from room 214, who had mentioned earlier that he required more towels. She completed inputting the details for a future booking before lifting her head, her practiced customer service smile already in place. That smile immediately faltered and vanished. In the entryway stood a full-grown male lion. Its enormous form occupied the entire opening, its mane dark and thick against the morning light streaming through the tall windows. The animal's focus was locked onto Mia with a look so intense it sent a chill straight through her. The most terrifying aspect was the complete absence of any barrier or cage. It was simply there, not 20 feet from her desk. Her mind's initial reaction was absurd. This had to be an elaborate trick, maybe a film shoot no one had alerted the front desk about. But the sight of muscles moving under its hide as it advanced another step shattered that comforting thought instantly. This was a true wild predator, inexplicably inside the hotel lobby. Her second impulse was equally futile: run. Her vet training, however, instantly countered that instinct. Fleeing would inevitably trigger a chase. The lion would be on her before she could even reach the staff door. Besides, her legs felt like stone, her body paralyzed even if her brain decided to flee. The lion took another step, and Mia noticed something she'd overlooked in her initial panic. There was blood on its right front paw. The animal had a limp, clearly trying to keep weight off that leg. In spite of her fear, the vet student in her automatically assessed the injury, likely a deep puncture, maybe from a fence or a trap. The lion halted roughly 15 feet from the desk, its amber stare unwavering on Mia. Then it performed an act that contradicted everything she understood about wild animal nature. It deliberately raised its wounded paw, held it in the air for a moment, then set it down with what seemed like a soft whimper. It was presenting its injury to her. The understanding struck Mia with a surprising force. This was not a random meeting. The lion had entered with a goal. It was looking for aid. The sheer ridiculousness of the thought almost made her laugh despite her fear. Lions don't seek out humans for help. They have no concept of receiving medical care. Yet, there was an undeniable awareness in those eyes, a clear intention that went beyond basic instinct. Her mind raced through possibilities. The wildlife area next to the resort housed several lions as part of a breeding initiative aimed at strengthening the dwindling Florida panther population by incorporating genes from African lions. This creature had to be one of them. How it had gotten loose, and why it had chosen the resort over the open wilderness, were questions that had no answers yet. The noise of approaching conversation from the corridor leading to the dining area shattered the strange, silent understanding. The lion's ear swiveled toward the noise, and Mia saw its body stiffen. In moments, the breakfast crowd would emerge into the lobby, turning the situation into pure pandemonium. "Don't move," she breathed, unsure if she was speaking to the lion or herself. Moving with agonizing slowness, Mia reached under the counter for the internal phone. Her hand found it, and she carefully lifted the receiver, her gaze locked on the predator before her. She hit the button for security, silently hoping Ron, the head of security, would pick up quickly. After 2 rings, a rough voice answered. Security, Ron speaking. Ron, Mia said, her voice surprisingly steady despite her frantic heart. There is a lion in the lobby. This is not a drill. Quietly clear the dining room out through the kitchen exit and call Craig from the conservancy. Now. A short silence followed on the other end. Is this a joke? I am staring at a male lion, 15 feet away from me, Mia cut him off, her voice holding that same eerie composure. He's hurt and unpredictable. Please, just do what I asked before guests start coming in from breakfast. Good God, Ron muttered. Okay. Stay on the line. No sudden moves. I'm calling Craig right now. The lion had settled into a seated position, its focus still intense on Mia. Its wounded paw was held slightly off the floor, reinforcing her belief about its purpose. Somewhere in her mind, academic curiosity warred with sheer terror. This behavior was completely unprecedented. Lions simply did not act this way. The voices from the hall got louder, then suddenly stopped. Ron must have gotten to the guests. The ensuing quiet made the lobby feel even more surreal, just Mia and this top predator locked in a bizarre standoff. Craig's on his way, Ron's voice came through the phone, startling her. He says don't look away, but don't stare him down. And for God's sake, don't run. Wasn't planning on it, Mia answered, her eyes still fixed on the lion. He's bringing a tranquilizer, but it'll take about 8 minutes to get there. Can you keep him calm until then? Mia nearly laughed at the absurdity. Keep a wild lion calm? But then again, the animal wasn't acting wild. It sat there patiently, almost as if it understood the situation. I'll try, she said, and carefully placed the receiver back. As the immediate panic ebbed slightly, Mia's education started to take over. The lion was hurt and had approached humans rather than hiding away, as most wounded predators would. This suggested it might be one of the conservancy's more accustomed lions, possibly even hand-reared. If so, it might react well to a confident, composed presence. Hey there, she said gently, keeping eye contact without being aggressive. You're hurt, aren't you? Someone's coming to help. The lion's ears perked up at her voice. It made a low rumbling sound that wasn't quite a growl, but didn't seem hostile either. Her mind went back to her exotic animal medicine class. Lions were social beings with intricate communication. They reacted to vocal tone and physical cues as much as specific words. If she could appear calm and sure of herself instead of terrified, maybe she could keep the situation controlled until Craig came with the tranquilizer. My name's Mia, she went on in the same soft, steady voice. I'm going to stay right here, and we're going to get that paw looked at, okay? The lion blinked slowly. In domestic cats, that was often a sign of trust. Mia found herself blinking slowly in return, a deliberate signal that she was not a danger. It was probably pointless to assign human traits to its actions, but at this moment, she was ready to attempt anything. Minutes passed in this odd connection. The lion would shift now and then, but stayed seated near the desk. Mia kept talking softly, her veterinary mind noting the animal's physical state. Other than the injured paw, it seemed in good health, its fur glossy and full. Definitely a conservancy lion, not a wild one. She heard the service door behind her open with extreme caution. Without turning, she knew it was Craig. The lion's ears immediately flicked toward the noise, and its posture grew a little tense. Easy, Mia whispered. It's okay. It's Mia, Craig's voice came, barely a whisper. That's Kiros. He's one of our males, born here. I need you to get down behind the counter very slowly when I tell you to. Kiros. The lion had a name. Somehow, that made the whole thing both less and more frightening. Mia gave a tiny nod to show she understood. Now, please, Craig instructed. Mia started to lower herself, but as she moved, Kiros abruptly stood. A low, rumbling growl came from his chest, his attention now fixed on Craig and whatever he was holding, presumably the tranquilizer gun. The lion took a step toward Mia, then another, his injured paw leaving a small bloodstain on the shiny floor. Craig swore under his breath. He's agitated. Mia, stay completely still. She froze in an awkward half-crouch. Kiros was now less than 10 feet away, his massive head level with hers. She could detect his wild, musky odor and make out the individual whiskers. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure the lion could perceive it. Talk to him, Craig urged, barely audible. He seems to listen to you. Swallowing her terror, Mia found her voice once more. Hey, Kiros, it's all right. No one means you any harm. We just want to fix that paw. The lion's growl lessened a bit, but he stayed standing, his attention shifting between Mia and Craig. The stress in the lobby was so heavy it felt tangible, like an unseen force threatening to pull them all into calamity. Then Kiros did something that altered everything. He limped forward until he was right at the front of the desk, reached his injured paw across the counter toward Mia, and let out a soft chuffing sound, a noise lions typically make to each other as a greeting or sign of connection. He was requesting her help. The moment seemed to stop. Mia stared at the enormous paw stretched out to her, Craig remained frozen with the tranquilizer gun half-raised, and Kiros waited with an almost human-like patience. In her 3 years of veterinary education, Mia had never witnessed this degree of apparent understanding in a wild animal, even one raised in captivity. Craig, she breathed, not looking away from Kiros, has he ever done anything like this? A pause, then Craig's strained reply. Never. He's one of our more habituated lions, but this is unheard of. The paw stayed extended, blood slowly dripping onto the polished reception counter. Mia's veterinary instincts took charge, pushing past the fear. The wound was plain to see now, a deep puncture with swollen surrounding tissue, possibly infected. Without attention, it could become severely problematic. I need my kit, she said softly. Can you get to the back office? My medical bag is under the desk. Mia, I can't just leave you with him, Craig objected. He's asking for help, Craig. If you try to dart him now, there's no telling how he'll react. She kept her tone level, even though her hands were shaking slightly. Please trust me on this. After what seemed an age, Craig sighed. Don't move a muscle. I'll be right back. She heard him retreat slowly through the service door. Kiros's eyes followed the motion, but the lion stayed mostly focused on Mia, his paw still offered in that unusual beseeching pose. I'm going to help you, she assured him quietly. But you have to stay calm. Do you understand? As if in reply, Kiros made another gentle chuffing sound. The resort's air conditioning hummed quietly, an ordinary noise that contrasted sharply with the extraordinary scene in the lobby. Craig returned moments later, sliding Mia's medical bag across the floor toward her. Management is clearing the whole East Wing, he murmured. Animal control has been alerted, but I told them to hold off until we see how this goes. Mia gave a small nod, her gaze still connected with Kiros's amber eyes. Moving with deliberate slowness, she reached for her bag, opened it, and removed latex gloves. Every action was intentional, giving the lion time to understand what she was doing. I'm going to examine your paw now, she explained, keeping her soothing tone. This might sting, but I need you to stay still. Whether the lion truly grasped her words or just responded to her calm voice, Kiros remained motionless as Mia gently took his paw. The touch sent a surge of adrenaline through her. She was handling a wild predator that could end her with a single swipe. Yet the paw in her hand stayed relaxed, the deadly claws retracted. On closer look, Mia saw the wound was indeed a puncture, probably from a large metal spike. The area around it was swollen and warm, indicating infection. Kiros will need antibiotics and a proper cleaning at minimum, she murmured, more to herself. He must have been in a lot of pain to seek help like this. The question is, why come here specifically? Craig had edged closer, the tranquilizer gun now lowered but still ready. The resort borders our north enclosure. If he got out and was hurt doing so, this would be the first building he'd come to. But why come inside? Why not just go deeper into the wild areas? Mia questioned as she carefully cleaned the wound with antiseptic wipes from her kit. Kiros flinched slightly but stayed cooperative. He was hand-reared for his first year before joining the Pride, Craig explained, watching the interaction with growing amazement. He's always been more at ease around people than the other lions, but this level of trust. I've never seen anything like it. As Mia worked, guests and employees had gathered at a distance, watching through the glass doors to the pool area. Phones were out, recording the remarkable event, a young woman in resort attire treating an injured lion across the reception desk as if it were a domestic cat. Mia was dimly aware of the onlookers but remained completely focused on her patient. The puncture is deep, she told Craig. I can clean and bandage it, give him a dose of antibiotics, but he'll need full veterinary care. Probably surgery to clear out debris and make sure there's no tendon damage. Dr. Hoffman is on her way, Craig answered. She's bringing a proper transport crate and full medical kit. Mia nodded, continuing her work. She applied antibiotic ointment to the wound, then carefully wrapped it in gauze, securing it with medical tape. All through the procedure, Kiros watched her closely, occasionally glancing at the growing crowd, but showing no aggression. All done for now, she told the lion, gently releasing his paw. That should feel a little better. Kiros drew back his bandaged paw, looked at it briefly, then returned his gaze to Mia. The awareness in those amber eyes was unmistakable, an understanding beyond simple instinct. He made that chuffing sound again, then performed an action that made the watching crowd gasp. He lowered his massive head in what could only be interpreted as a bow. He's thanking you, Craig breathed, his professional composure momentarily lost in pure wonder. Before Mia could reply, the front door slid open as a man in a business suit walked in from outside, unaware of the situation. He was looking down at his phone, completely oblivious to the predator less than 15 feet away. Excuse me. I'm checking in for, the man looked up, his words dying as he took in the scene. Kiros spun toward the sudden interruption, his entire bearing shifting from calm patient to alert predator. A deep growl came from his chest, muscles coiling as he prepared to charge. Don't move. Craig yelled to the frozen guest, raising the tranquilizer. Everything happened at once. The man dropped his phone, the clatter startled Kiros further. The lion roared, the sound hitting the lobby like a physical blow. Guests behind the glass doors screamed and fled. Craig fired the dart, but in his haste, it missed, embedding in the wall behind the lion. Mia acted on pure instinct. She vaulted over the reception desk, putting herself between Kiros and the terrified guest. Kiros! No, she shouted, her arms outstretched. The lion stopped short, clearly torn. The hunting urge had been activated, but Mia's intervention gave him pause. He growled again, softer this time, his attention fixed on the man now backing slowly toward the exit. Sir, please leave very slowly, Mia instructed, not looking away from Kiros. Craig, don't fire again. You'll only make him more agitated. The guest didn't need a second prompt. He retreated through the sliding doors, which closed automatically behind him. But the harm was done. Kiros was now completely alert, his earlier calm replaced by the natural caution of a wild animal in an unfamiliar space. We need to get him contained, Craig said urgently, loading another dart. The tranquilizer will work faster if he's calm. Can you keep talking to him? Mia nodded, though her confidence had wavered after Kiros's sudden change. She took a cautious step toward the lion, then another, maintaining slow movements and a steady voice. Hey, Kiros, remember me? I helped your paw. You're safe here. No one's going to hurt you. The lion's eyes stayed on her, his posture still tense but no longer actively aggressive. Encouraged, Mia continued her approach, using the same soothing tone. That's it. Good boy. We're going to get you back home where you belong. But first, we need to finish treating that paw. Dr. Hoffman is coming to help. She's really good with big cats. Whether it was her voice, her scent, or some inexplicable link that had formed between them, Kiros began to relax. His growl faded, and he lowered himself into a sitting position again, though his gaze remained watchful, scanning the lobby for further threats. Craig had circled behind the lion, tranquilizer ready. He caught Mia's eye and nodded. He had a clear shot now. Mia gave an almost imperceptible nod in return, then deliberately focused all her attention on Kiros, distracting him from Craig's presence. "You're doing so well," she told the lion. "Such a good, brave boy. Your paw is going to heal just fine." The dart hit its target, sinking into the thick muscle of Kiros's shoulder. The lion flinched, then turned his head to look at the foreign object with something like betrayal in his eyes. He looked back at Mia, and the hurt in that gaze was so profoundly human that she felt tears well up. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "It's for your own good." Kiros made no move to attack or escape. Instead, he simply watched Mia as the tranquilizer began to work, his massive body gradually relaxing. Even as consciousness slipped away, those intelligent eyes remained on her face, holding that strange connection until finally they closed and the great cat slumped to the floor. The lobby immediately filled with activity as staff and security who had been waiting rushed in. Craig immediately checked Kiros's vital signs while resort management began cordoning off the area and trying to manage the narrative of what had occurred. Phones were still recording from behind the glass doors, and Mia realized with a sinking feeling that this incident was probably already all over social media. "He's stable," Craig announced, looking up from the sedated lion. "Dr. Hoffman should be here any minute with the transport equipment." "Mia, you did an amazing job. I've never seen anything like what just happened." Mia knelt beside Kiros, gently stroking his mane. The feel was coarser than she'd anticipated, the individual hairs thick and slightly rough. Now that the immediate danger was over, the full scope of what had occurred began to sink in. She had treated an injured lion in a hotel lobby. She had placed herself between a predator and its potential prey. By any rational measure, she should be dead. "How did he get out?" she asked Craig, who was now on his phone coordinating with Conservancy staff. "He covered the mouthpiece. We're still figuring that out. The perimeter fence in the north section was damaged, but we don't know if that was the cause or result of his escape." He paused, then added quietly, "There are some other concerning findings. The wound on his paw, it looks like it might have been from a poacher's trap." Mia's eyes widened. "A trap in the Conservancy?" "We've had issues with trespassers lately," Craig admitted. "Nothing confirmed, but there have been reports of vehicles near the perimeter at odd hours. If someone's setting traps on our land..." He was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Hoffman, a tall woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair pulled back. She took in the scene with the practiced efficiency of someone who had dealt with many wildlife emergencies, though probably none quite as unusual as a sedated lion in a resort lobby. "Well, this is certainly a first," she remarked, kneeling to examine Kiros. After checking his vitals and the bandaged paw, she looked up at Mia with newfound respect. "You did good work here. Clean dressing, proper wound management. Are you a veterinary student?" "Third year at UF. I've been working here part-time." Dr. Hoffman nodded thoughtfully. "Well, you've just gotten yourself one hell of a case study for your exotics rotation." As they spoke, Conservancy staff had begun preparing Kiros for transport, carefully securing him to a reinforced stretcher. Despite the sedation, they worked with extreme caution. Even unconscious, a male lion of his size was potentially dangerous if he began to wake prematurely. "What happens to him now?" Mia asked, watching as they lifted the stretcher. "We'll take him back to the Conservancy's medical facility," Dr. Hoffman explained. "Proper examination, x-rays, treatment for the infection. Based on what Craig has told me about his behavior, we'll also run a full neurological assessment." "What you're describing is highly unusual, even for a hand-raised lion." Mia nodded, though something about the clinical description of Kiros's fate left her feeling strangely hollow. There had been something special in their interaction, something that defied scientific explanation, the way he had sought her out specifically, the intelligence in his eyes, the apparent gratitude. None of it fit neatly into the categories of normal animal behavior. Will I be able to check on him? She asked, surprising herself with how much she cared about the answer. Dr. Hoffman smiled slightly. I think that could be arranged. He seems to have formed an unusual bond with you. From a research perspective alone, it would be valuable to observe further interactions. As they wheeled Kiros out through the service entrance, Mia followed, suddenly reluctant to let him out of her sight. The morning sun was bright outside, making her squint. Resort guests had gathered at a safe distance, still recording with their phones despite security's attempts to maintain privacy. Mia heard fragments of excited conversations as she passed. Did you see how it just walked right up to her? The way it offered its paw, like it knew she could help. I got the whole thing on video. It's going viral already. The last comment made her wince. She hadn't considered the implications of becoming an internet sensation, especially given her career aspirations. Would potential employers see her as the veterinary student who expertly handled a dangerous situation, or as a reckless thrill-seeker who put herself and others at risk? As they loaded Kiros into the specially designed transport vehicle, his massive body taking up most of the available space, Dr. Hoffman turned to Mia with an unexpected question. The resort manager mentioned you've been working here for what, 3 months? Mia nodded. Since May. Yes. And in that time, did you ever visit the conservancy? Specifically, the north enclosure where Kiros was kept. I took the staff tour when I first started, Mia replied, thinking back, and I'd done the guest safari experience twice, but I don't remember specifically meeting Kiros. Dr. Hoffman's expression was thoughtful. Yet, he came directly to you, bypassing other staff and guests. He specifically sought human help, which is unusual enough, but he appeared to target you particularly. I'm just trying to understand the why of it all. Before Mia could respond, one of the conservancy staff approached with urgent news. Dr. Hoffman, we found something. The perimeter fence wasn't just damaged. It was cut. And there are tire tracks leading from a service road. This wasn't an accident. Someone let Kiros out deliberately. The revelation landed like a physical blow. Someone had intentionally released a predator near a populated resort area. The implications were horrifying, not just for the potential human casualties, but for what it might have meant for Kiros himself. If he had injured or killed someone, he would have been destroyed without question. Who would do something like that? Mia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Hoffman's expression had hardened. That's what we need to find out. And quickly, because if someone's targeting our animals, Kiros might not be the last. As the transport vehicle pulled away, Mia felt a strange hollowness in her chest. The morning's events had left her shaken in ways she couldn't fully articulate. She had connected with a wild predator on a level she hadn't believed possible, possibly saved lives through her intervention, and now discovered that the entire incident might have been deliberately orchestrated by someone with unknown but clearly malevolent intentions. What she didn't realize yet was that her involvement was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of police statements, media inquiries, and concerned calls from Mia's parents and professors. The resort had given her 3 days of paid leave, ostensibly to recover from the traumatic experience, but Mia suspected it had more to do with management's desire to keep her away from eager journalists while they controlled the narrative. By Wednesday evening, the video of her interaction with Kiros had accumulated over 8 million views across various platforms. Wildlife experts were debating the lion's unusual behavior on morning shows, and Mia had declined 17 interview requests, including one from a major network that had offered a 5-figure sum for an exclusive. She sat now in her small apartment just off campus, scrolling through the seemingly endless online discussions about the incident. Most comments praised her bravery and composure, though a vocal minority accused her of recklessness, or more absurdly, suggested the entire thing had been staged. University classmates she barely knew had suddenly become overly friendly, eager for insider details about her lion whisperer moment. The buzzing of her phone interrupted her thoughts. The screen showed Craig's name, the first direct contact he'd had with the conservancy since leaving the resort Tuesday morning. Hello, she answered, trying to keep the eagerness from her voice. Mia, it's Craig. How are you holding up? I'm fine, she hesitated, then asked the question that had been consuming her thoughts. How's Kiros? There was a brief pause. That's actually why I'm calling. He's recovering well physically. The surgery on his paw was successful and the infection is responding to antibiotics, but he's not eating. Dr. Hoffman is concerned. Mia frowned. Has he been sedated this whole time? No, he's fully conscious now, just very subdued. Refuses food, minimal water intake, spends most of his time staring at the enclosure exit. Craig's voice lowered slightly. Dr. Hoffman thinks he might be looking for you. The suggestion sent an odd flutter through Mia's chest. That's not possible, right? I mean, lions don't form attachments that quickly. Under normal circumstances, I'd agree. But nothing about this situation has been normal. There was a rustling of papers on his end. Look, Dr. Hoffman was wondering if you might be willing to come to the Conservancy tomorrow, just to see if your presence has any effect on his recovery. Mia didn't hesitate. What time? 9 work for you? I can pick you up. The media's still camping outside our main entrance, so we'll bring you in through the service road. After confirming the details, Mia ended the call and sat staring at her phone, emotion swirling. Concern for Kiros battled with a strange sense of validation. The connection she'd felt hadn't been imaginary. Something genuine had formed between them in those intense moments at the resort. Sleep came fitfully that night, her dreams filled with amber eyes and reaching paws. She woke before her alarm, showered quickly, and dressed in practical clothes, jeans, closed-toe shoes, and a light button-down that wouldn't restrict movement if she needed to react quickly. Craig was punctual, arriving in an unmarked Conservancy SUV with tinted windows. He looked tired, with shadows under his eyes, suggesting he'd been working long hours since the incident. Any change? Mia asked as she buckled her seat belt. Craig shook his head. Still refusing food. Dr. Hoffman is preparing to tube feed him if necessary, but she's hoping your visit might trigger a breakthrough. As they drove, Craig filled her in on the investigation. The police had confirmed that the perimeter fence had been deliberately cut, and security cameras had captured partial footage of a vehicle near the Conservancy boundary around 3 a.m. Tuesday morning. The quality was too poor for identification, but it was clearly a premeditated act. We've had threats before, Craig explained, turning onto an unmarked dirt road that circumvented the main entrance. Animal rights extremists who think keeping any animals in captivity is cruel, even for conservation purposes, or locals who resent the land being used for wildlife instead of development. But this feels different. More targeted. More calculated. Do they have any leads? Mia asked. Nothing solid yet. They're checking everyone with access to the Conservancy maps and security details. He glanced at her briefly, including staff and contractors at the resort since they would have known the layout of both properties. The implication was clear. The list of suspects included her coworkers. Mia mulled this over as they passed through a security checkpoint and continued toward the veterinary facility, a modern single-story building set apart from the public areas of the Conservancy. Dr. Hoffman met them at the entrance, her expression serious but not grim. Thank you for coming, Mia. I know this is unorthodox, but we're running out of options. She led them through a series of corridors to a secure recovery area. Through a reinforced observation window, Mia could see Kiros lying on a padded platform in a spacious enclosure. His bandaged paw was elevated and 4 line running into a vein in his foreleg. Even from a distance, Mia could see that his normally vibrant coat looked dull, his posture listless. Has he been like this the entire time? She asked, her heart constricting at the sight. Since regaining consciousness after surgery, yes, Dr. Hoffman confirmed. We've tried everything. Favorite foods, familiar keepers, even playing recordings of his Pride members. Nothing's working. What do you want me to do? Just talk to him initially. Let him see you, smell you. We'll assess his reaction and go from there. Dr. Hoffman gestured to a door leading into an antechamber. This area allows for protected contact. There's a reinforced barrier between you, but it has openings that allow for limited physical interaction if needed. Mia nodded, steeling herself. The prospect of being near Kiros again sent contradictory pulses of anxiety and anticipation through her system. She followed Dr. Hoffman into the antechamber, which contained monitoring equipment and a chair positioned near a transparent barrier. Beyond it was Kiros's recovery space. "I'll leave you two alone," Dr. Hoffman said, adjusting one of the monitors. "We'll be watching from the observation room. If at any point you feel uncomfortable, just say so, and we'll bring you out immediately." Once alone, Mia approached the barrier cautiously. Kiros hadn't moved, his eyes half closed, seemingly unaware of her presence. She sat in the chair, uncertain how to begin. "Hey, Kiros," she said softly. "Remember me from the resort?" The effect was immediate and astonishing. The lion's head snapped up, ears forward, eyes suddenly alert and focused directly on her. He rose shakily to his feet, the four-line trailing behind him as he approached the barrier with surprising speed given his condition. Mia's heart raced, but she remained seated as Kiros pressed his massive face against the barrier, nostrils flaring as he took in her scent. The recognition in his eyes was unmistakable, not just awareness, but what appeared to be genuine relief and excitement. "You do remember," she whispered, amazed. "I'm glad you're okay." "Well, getting there anyway." Kiros made that same chuffing sound she remembered from their first encounter, his breath fogging the barrier between them. On impulse, Mia placed her palm against the transparent surface. The lion mirrored the gesture, pressing his nose to the barrier where her hand rested. From the observation room, Mia could hear muffled exclamations of surprise. She couldn't blame them. The level of recognition and apparent affection Kiros was displaying defied conventional understanding of wild animal behavior, even for a captive-raised specimen. Over the next hour, Mia talked to Kiros continuously, telling him about her veterinary studies, her family in Minnesota, her hopes to specialize in wildlife medicine. The content didn't matter. It was the connection that seemed important. Kiros remained fixated on her, occasionally responding with those soft, chuffing sounds when she asked him questions, as if participating in the conversation. Most significantly, when a keeper brought in a tray of raw meat, Kiros finally ate, tearing into the food with healthy appetite while keeping Mia in his line of sight. Dr. Hoffman and Craig watched in amazement from the observation room, documenting every aspect of the interaction. When Mia finally emerged from the antechamber, Dr. Hoffman was waiting with undisguised excitement. "That was remarkable. His vital signs improved almost immediately when he recognized you, heart rate, respiration, even his blood pressure all shifted toward normal parameters within minutes of your arrival." "I don't understand it either," Mia admitted. "There's no reason he should have formed such a strong attachment to me after one brief interaction." "Unless it wasn't your first interaction," Craig suggested, his expression thoughtful. Both women turned to him questioningly. "The staff tour you mentioned taking when you started at the resort," he continued. "I checked the records. 3 months ago, one of our junior keepers conducted that tour. He's no longer with us, but I spoke with him yesterday. He remembers you because you spent extra time at the lion enclosure asking detailed questions about their care and behavior." Mia nodded slowly, the memory returning. "That's right. I was particularly interested in the breeding program. During that tour, you hand-fed one of our lions through the protective barrier, a piece of meat held in tongs, standard protocol for our VIP experiences." The keeper couldn't remember which lion it was, but Craig paused meaningfully. "You think it was Kiros?" Mia finished for him. "It would explain a lot," Dr. Hoffman interjected. "Lions have exceptional memory, particularly for scents and faces associated with positive experiences. If your first interaction with him was providing food, and then you helped alleviate his pain when he was injured." The theory made sense. But Mia still felt there was something more to it, something beyond conditioning and positive association. The intelligence she'd seen in Kiro's eyes, the deliberate nature of his actions, it suggested a level of awareness that science wasn't quite ready to attribute to non-human animals. "So what happens now?" she asked, watching through the observation window as Kiro settled back on his platform, notably more relaxed than before. Dr. Hoffman and Craig exchanged glances. "We'd like you to continue visiting during his recovery, if you're willing," Dr. Hoffman said. "Perhaps every other day for the next few weeks. We'll document the interactions as part of a study on captive lion behavior and human bonding." "Of course, I'll come," Mia agreed immediately. "I want to see him recover fully." As they walked back toward the exit, Craig received a call that he stepped away to take. When he returned, his expression had shifted to one of concerned urgency. "That was security," he explained. "They've identified a suspect in the fence cutting. Timothy Roth, one of our maintenance contractors. He was fired last month for violations of animal handling protocols." "Has he been arrested?" Dr. Hoffman asked sharply. "That's the problem. The police went to his apartment this morning, but he wasn't there, and his truck was spotted near the Conservancy's east boundary an hour ago." A chill ran through Mia. "You think he's coming back? Why would he risk that?" Craig's expression was grim. "Revenge, most likely. Or to finish whatever he started by releasing Kiros. Either way, we're on lockdown until police secure the perimeter." Dr. Hoffman immediately began issuing orders into her radio, initiating the Conservancy's emergency protocols. Staff hurried through the corridors, securing doors and checking security systems. In the midst of the controlled chaos, Craig pulled Mia aside. "We should get you out of here," he said, his voice low and urgent. "I'll drive you back to campus now before the situation escalates." Mia hesitated, glancing back toward the recovery area where Kiros was housed. "What about him? Will he be safe?" "The veterinary facility has the highest security level in the Conservancy. Multiple barriers, backup power systems, armed guards." Craig attempted a reassuring smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "He'll be fine. It's standard procedure to evacuate all non-essential personnel during a security threat." Reluctantly, Mia allowed herself to be escorted toward the service exit. They had almost reached Craig's vehicle when